afternoon to you all. Welcome to our 1 p.m. talk about sports nutrition to empower athletes' performance today. I believe for those who are watching our channel today, some of you may be athletes or you're personally interested in exercise, or you may have some family or friends who are interested in sports. And yes, sometimes when we do exercise, we may wonder what should we eat, or like during exercise, or should I drink something, or if yes, what should I drink? And there may be some questions in our head. And indeed, it is a kind of science. So to see what can we eat to help with our sports performance, today we are very honored to have Dr. Heidi Ai, who has extensive experience in the sport and exercise nutrition field. And Dr. Ai has obtained her PhD in the University of Hong Kong and a master's degree in nutrition and dietetics from the University of Wollongong. And she has over 20 years of teaching and clinical experience. We are pleased to have Dr. Ai to share her field to this topic to us. Thank you, Heidi. I will pass the time to you now.
Okay, thank you, Clemmy.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm so glad to be invited to share my passion to all of you today. The topic is about sports nutrition. How can it help us to empower athletes' performance? So that's a very interesting topic. As we all are aware or are feeling very excited that the coming Olympics is in July, just a month's time. So we have many athletes coming on stage to showcase their talent, to showcase their best performance in the Paris Olympics. I'm sure all of you understand an athlete's effort is huge. It's like countless hours and hours spending, especially in this final stage of the preparation to the Olympics in next month. Okay, so training is very important. But their ultimate goal, of course, is to challenge the medals, hoping to achieve their best performance so that they can do their best in the game, right? That's the goal of the athlete. So, but well, we also understand training alone actually is not enough, because nutrition is also one of the most important factors that dictating their final performance. Basically, diet and training, they go hand in hand. Without a proper diet, even though with sufficient training, the athlete cannot perform their best as such. Indeed, we have so much new science coming up to explain or discover the role of nutrition in sports performance, including like the sport-specific demands, because their demands are so great, and also their final performance in terms of helping them to reduce the injuries and also enhancing the recovery for the training sessions. Okay, then we might have this question in our head, as Cami said, what is the secrets of the athlete's diet? What do they eat? How do these Olympians eat? Do they eat very differently from us? Or do they eat a very special diet? That's what we are going to discover in this 1 hour's talk. If I have to put an example between the athletes and we normal working people, I would say the athletes, they are like a racing car, and we normal working people are just like the normal private car. Okay, so do you think these race cars, they use the gasoline like the normal cars do? That's the question. Obviously not quite. Although I'm not, professionals in engineering, but I understand the gasoline to fuel the race car is very different from what we, get from the gas stations in our daily life. Okay, so that we understand athletes actually need to eat quite differently from us. Okay, and their diet are very particular. Okay, what is particular means is very precise, no more and no less. I'll tell you why these about this in the coming slides. So, in a nutshell, what is an athlete's diet? We can also put like into like a pyramid. Okay, they also have their basal diet, which is having similar food compared to us. But because of their exercise performance, they also have the sport-specific nutrition, which tailor-made to boost their performance. And also they need some of the dietary supplements because of the requirement is so high, they may not be able to get all the nutrients or all the substance from the food sources. Therefore, dietary supplements is also a common part of their athletes' diets. Okay. Now, I would like to start with this news to share with you about a few years ago, a German triathlete. He actually banned, from eating from all-you-can-eat sushi restaurant in Japan. Okay, why? Because he actually moved down nearly 100 dishes. Okay, I feel bad for the restaurant, but I'm sure that's not the intention for this triathlete to make the restaurant bankrupt. Basically, this may be just his normal diet that he need to eat like 100 dishes of sushi. Okay, and why it is so? Given another examples, maybe more, familiar to you, this man, Michael Phelps, he actually retired, but he is a great swimmer. If you know swimming, then you must know Michael Phelps. He actually gained a lot of Olympics medals for the past like 10, 15 years in his career life. So this news report telling us that Michael Phelps actually, when he was in his training days, he consumed basically more than 10,000 calories a day. Okay, so what is this concept of 10,000 calories? Okay, to put an example, I myself, I actually eat like less than 2,000 calories a day. And for most of us, living in Hong Kong, even though we do, some of the exercise maybe at the recreational level, we actually need like 2,000 calories a day. That would be pretty much enough for us. So that means 10,000 calories a day is like 5 times of what we need per day. That means what we eat in a portion, the athlete may have to eat like 5 times than us. So that is the concept of 10,000 calories. So this is one of the reasons to explain why the German athlete consume more than 100 dishes of sushi in that restaurant and make this restaurant ban him to get into the restaurant in future. Okay. So if we look at the data more precisely, we can actually see the energy intake goal of different field of sports. They are very varies as well. But overall, you can see the energy demand coming from like more than 2,000 to like 5,000 per day. Okay, so that's their energy intake goal. It's pretty much a lot to consume. Okay, so for some sports like swimming, like on-road cycling, rolling, because of the time to put into the exercise as well. So they actually need more than like jumping or sprinting, sports like that. Okay, and this also applies to female athletes. Okay, although female generally eat less than male, however, when we compare athlete and non-athlete, you can also see that they actually consume quite a lot, okay, compared to the normal working people. Okay, so that is their energy requirement. So this is the first or the primary component that we have to consider when we are looking at the athletes' diet, because they need a lot of energy to offset their expenditure for the physical activity. So when we study Physiology 101, we understand that the total energy expenditure composed of 3 elements, basically the resting energy expenditure, the DIT, and then the physical activity. So for us, physical activity usually like 50% of our basal metabolism, but for the athlete, they may have their physical activities energy expenditure like double their basal metabolism. That's why we have to support their basal calories intake. That is the first or the primary goal. Okay, because what we need to supply or to support the athlete in terms of nutrition basically is to balance their energy expenditure, because they spend so much energy during the exercise, so that we have to design a meal that can give out sufficient energy intake for them to set off or balance off their energy requirements. Okay, so with the adequate fueling, just like the car, if we do not give gasoline to the car, even though you push down to the pedals, the car doesn't move. Okay, the same principle apply to human body. So with adequate fueling, the athletes are ready to perform their best. Okay, so that is the basic concept. Without adequate fueling, what would happen? Okay, just like the car, it just stopped. Okay, so the athlete will experience extreme fatigue and tiredness in early time, and also finally reduction in their performance. Okay, so even for the professional athletes, like the world-class one, okay, even though they are so fit, okay, they are so good in their game, but they still need the sufficient energy to cover their demands. Okay, without that, it's very easy for them to develop the symptoms of overtraining. Overtraining means they will get sick easily. They will have a lot of psychological and physical symptoms, like under stress and the muscle not being able to recover, things like that. Okay, so the first and the most important consideration in sports nutrition is to ensure the athlete they would have enough calories. So mainly that focus on their basal diet in order to support their needs. Okay, so when we talk about food to get the energy, okay, so we understand there are different fuel source, okay, or what we call macronutrients. These nutrients in the body are able to become the energy to provide to our needs. Okay, so these energies in terms of the units in the body is called ATP. Maybe you have heard about that before. So that's the energy currency of the body. When we eat like carbohydrate or lipids, that means fats or protein, our body would be able to convert these nutrients into ATP so that at the end we get the basal energy supply for us to move, for us to perform, for us to do all kinds of sports. Okay. However, for these different macronutrients inside the body, they actually use it very differently, just like different engines. So in our human body, we are very smart. We have different engines to consume all these fuel sources. Okay, so they are not undergoing the same pathway in order to generate the ATP. Okay, that's what we require to study biochemistry because we got to understand the mechanisms behind all these macronutrients. They have a different pathway at the end to produce the ATP. Okay, then we would have this question in mind. Okay, so these macronutrients give us ATP. Then which type of fuel is the best for my sports? Okay, this question, also applies to the different types of car. Okay, so what is the best fuel for my car? What is the best fuel for my sports? That would be an issue to study on. Okay, so if we study the physiology, we know that basically it depends on two very important factors. The first factor is the intensity of the exercise, and the second is the duration of the exercise. So if we have like higher intensity and different duration, we are using different fuel source in the body. So the body is very smart. It just automatically change to different fuel source. So we don't need to tell the body what to eat, but the body would automatically demand for a specific nutrients to supply the ATP. Okay, so put in a nutshell, like when we have like a very high intensity, short duration, we basically use the creatine phosphate. Okay, that's one of the fuel source in the body. But for exercise longer than like 10 seconds up to hours, mainly we use carbohydrate. We have fast carbohydrate and slow carbohydrate. Okay, only when we come to a very long duration, like endurance sports like triathlon or open swimming, then the fat would come to play a role into the ATP production. So it depends on intensity and duration, and the body will switch to different engine system to consume different fuel sources. Okay, so that's why it depends on the sports type. If the sport is more sprinting type, then we use the fuel source from this area. If the sport is more endurance, we use the fuel source from this area. Okay, so it's easier to talk than in the real scenario or real situation, because if we look at the example of like basketball, it's not like a purely one system event. Okay, so it's basically many sports are more rely on more than one systems, okay, to use the system interchangeably, because we have like short sprinting and also in running, or also in throwing the ball. So these all include different muscle groups and also different system of fuel source. If we look at the energy systems contribute to track and field events, that would be easier to illustrate the different energy system. Okay, like for example, in 100 meters events, usually the top athlete they can do it within 10 seconds. Then you see most of the energy source comes from this ATP-CP, the creatine phosphate. Okay, and then the rest comes from glycogen, that means the glucose. Okay, so there's not really much from the fat source. Okay, so in order to fuel this athlete for the 100 meters event, when we plan the sports nutrition for these athletes, what do we focus on? Should be on the creatine and also the carbohydrate. So not much concern about the fat intake. Okay, so when the duration increase, like the events from 100 meters to like 10,000 meters, that's 10 km, okay, then it changed, because it's not like that sprinting anymore. So the involvement from the creatine phosphate would be quite insignificant and more likely on the carbohydrate. So in this case, when we feed this athlete, the most concern is whether they have sufficient carbohydrate in their storage so that they can compete in their highest level. Okay, so when it comes to like a marathon, like it's 42 kilometer, then the slow carbohydrate comes into play, and also a bit of fatty acid in the blood. Okay, so in this case, when we plan diets for the marathon runner, then we have to also consider whether they have sufficient fat intake in the storage to supply their long course of running. Okay, so that's feeding or feeding an athlete actually require very careful examination of their physiology. We have to make sure their storage, be it in the blood or be it in the liver or in the muscle, they are sufficient for them to get the ATP source. Okay, remember, if they do not have enough calories, they just cannot perform their best. Okay, so fueling the wrong way, even they have adequate fuel. So when we do the calculations of calories, we understand, oh, this is enough. Okay, you need 10,000 calories. I have given you 10,000 calories. Okay, but if we do not look carefully of the fuel source, then they will still feeling exhausted and fatigued, same as insufficient calories intake. Okay, so it's not the number, okay, but the quality of the diet is more important, and that based on their physiology, what is the main fuel source for their events, and that we have to design and do the calculation for them. Okay, so that's eating for the training. That's how to optimize their programs of physical conditioning. So whether they are doing strength or they're doing endurance, speed, agility, power, cardio, is a long course or is an interval session. So these training would make the fuel source of the athlete very varied. Okay, it's not the same. We have to look at each of the training session and also pair with the accurate the particular diet for the athlete so that they can get sufficient energy out of the food. Okay, so some of you may wonder, okay, how about protein, because you did talk about, carbohydrate is the major source of energy input to the athlete, and fat come into a role when the event becomes in long duration. How about protein? Protein actually in the body is not here for us to make the ATP. Okay, although it got the function of producing ATP, but the main function or purpose of taking protein for the athlete is to maintain their muscle mass. Okay, because they need to have sufficient muscle in order to perform their sports. Okay, but for the protein needs is actually very highly varied and individual, because if they are doing resistance training or if they are doing endurance training, the pathway, again, the biochemistry inside the body, how do we use the protein would be very different. Okay, would be very different. Okay, so the requirement basically depends on the type of sports, okay, and their goal of muscle mass synthesis. One thing I do want to mention here is a new concept of protein intake, because some of you may heard about we have like a protein restriction because our body cannot handle more than like 20 grams of protein each time in the past. Okay, when I say in the past, it's not that long ago, like even like 2-3 years, we still have this concept of when we take protein in a meal, it shouldn't be, in large amount, because more than like 20 grams of protein, our body would not be able to like handle it or metabolize it, so that it would accelerate the protein oxidation. That means breakdown of proteins, not helping us. But the latest science actually coming from last year, we have the new understanding that the protein synthesis actually not being hindered by the amount of protein, because we have research showing that even a large meal containing like 100 grams of protein does not result in exponential increase in the protein oxidation. That means the breakdown of protein. But in fact, on the other hand, will help us to increase the protein synthesis over a 12-hour period. Okay, so that's why we have this new concept of not restricting the amounts of protein per meal. That all depends on the requirement. For example, if I require like 100 grams or 150 grams protein per day, I do not need to restrict myself to have 5 meals or 6 meals and each meal of 20 grams. I can actually take as much of protein as I need to supply my body's requirements. So that is the new concept coming up from the new scientific discovery. Okay, come to this point, you may wonder, then why don't we just eat more? Because you say carbs is very important for the athletes to get the energy, and the protein is also important for them to maintain or even increase their muscle mass or the strength of their power. Okay, so then why don't we just eat more, just fuel them more, so that they would got sufficient nutrients? And then why does it need to be so particular? Okay, so the answer is here. Again, some of the biochemistry. Okay, this pathway explain actually any kind of macronutrients. Okay, if that is fat, you may be, easier to understand. If we have excessive intake of fat in our diet, of course we gain fat mass in the body. However, even for the protein, okay, protein intake, if we have it in excessive amount, okay, more than we need, it actually would also lead to fat accumulations in the body, because the dietary protein, when they get into the human body system, that would go through a pathway eventually to becomes fat in the body. So the same principle applies to fat or carbohydrate and even protein. If we have more than that, we actually gain fat mass, okay, not only body mass, but precisely fat mass. And that is actually very detrimental to an athlete. Why it is so? Because we know that actually, apart from the athletic skills, their body weight and their body composition also hugely affects their sport performance. and these are mostly controlled by diet. So when you look at their physiques, they are very unique. Okay, for each sport, like the boxer or the marathon runner, you can see their physique is very, very different. Okay, it's not, for the beauty itself. Okay, it's not really for the outlook, but it's basically for their highest performance. So if they are short, if they are tall, if they are thin, if they are skinny, if they are muscular, then they will fit into different category of sports. Okay, so that we don't want the athlete to eat more than they need. Okay, of course, on one hand, we don't want the athlete to eat inadequately, so that they, they will feel the hitting the wall. Okay, bunking, not able to perform their best. But on the other hand, if we feed them more than they need, it actually would affect their body weight and body composition. Okay, that is also very detrimental, especially in the world-class athlete. So that comes to the first conclusion about sports nutrition. What do we do? The first one to look at is to match with their requirement, no more and no less. So come to this point, I think you would agree with me why their diet is so particular. Therefore, when we plan the diets for the athlete, is actually very individualized. Okay, very individualized. They also have like a nutrition pyramid, food pyramid, just like us. But you can see the layer are different. Okay, the major concern would be those beverage, because they need those water in the body for the smooth of the metabolisms, and then many of the fruit and vegetables in order to gain those micronutrients and antioxidants. Then would be the whole grain and legumes, so that they can get sufficient carbohydrate, and then protein, and then fat would be less in concern. The same applies to all of us, is those junk food like sweets and salty snacks would not be recommended for their diet. Okay, so that would be a little bit different and also very individualized. Also, another factors to planning their diet is about the timing. Okay, because there is something called strategic eating. Okay, strategic eating or strategic refueling. That means before, during, and after the exercise, actually we have to plan differently, because it's not, this time it's not like the car. Okay, the car, we just fill the gasoline. But for human body, before, during, and after the exercise, actually the demand would be different as well. Okay, so we have to feed the right nutrients at a proper timing, so that we can make sure we can support the energy use of an athlete to fill up like their muscle or their liver or in the blood for the target nutrients, so that they eventually would get the sufficient ATP to perform their exercise. Okay, so we also have some sports food and nutrition supplements to enhance the performance, in addition to their normal food or normal diet. Okay, so this comes to the top part of this pyramid. So in addition to the basal diet, they also need some sport-specific nutrition, and also some of the dietary supplements. As I say to you, this is because their requirements are so high. Okay, so they may not be able to get all these nutrients from the basal diet, so that they may need the dietary supplements to boost their performance. Okay, so there are so many different supplements on the market claiming that is useful, or what we call ergogenic, to the exercise performance. Okay, but not all of them are safe. Okay, some of them may be even violating the doping. So we have to be very careful when we choose the ergogenic aids for the athletes to boost or enhance their performance. Okay, some of them are safe, some of them may, get into the doping category, so we have to avoid them. So out of these safe supplements, some are having the scientific evidence to support the effects, like to beetroot, omega-3, or caffeine, maybe creatine. Okay, so these are the common sports ergogenic aids that help the athletes to improve their performance. Okay, some of these can be actually taken from food, so we can actually take like coffee, the caffeine from coffee, or some of them becomes like a tablet or a capsule made by the industry, so that the concentration would be higher. Okay, be it from the food or from the capsule. So these supplements having the scientific evidence to back up, actually in the end will help the physiological pathway in the body, like the engine system that I told you, so that they can have decisive in the performance. Sometimes it's just a second or a little bit faster than their usual performance. Then they that is the critical part for them to get a medal at the end. Okay, so if we want to know which supplements is safe or which supplements is having the scientific evidence, we can reference to the Australian Institute of Sport, the AIS. They have the sport supplements framework, and then they categorize into A, B, C, D group. So for group A, that means it got very strong support in the science, telling us that these supplements are helping the athletes to perform better. Okay. And we also have research to shows that these supplements are helping the athletes to enhance their physical activity optimization. That means optimize their training adaptation so that they don't waste their training time. Okay, they can optimize all of their training minute by minute, hour by hour, so that they can push their best. Okay, in addition to the healthy diet containing the protein, carbohydrate, as I've mentioned, and also the antioxidants to reduce the muscle soreness at the end. Okay, so the final outcome, be it from the supplements or from the healthy diet, is to boost the muscle recovery so that they can perform better. Okay, so put one example is the famous creatine. I believe most of you have heard about that because that is like a very trendy supplements for the athlete to consume nowadays. I do have lots of inquiry about the usefulness of this creatine. Actually, we got very exciting science coming up, like this paper from last year, 2023, proposing the potential effects of creatine and exercise performance. So in the past, we know creatine, if you do remember our energy system, we have the creatine in generating the ATP. So in the old days, we understand that this creatine would be able to become the creatine phosphate in the body and help us to generate ATP, particularly for the short duration, high intensity exercise. So that, have a very obvious linkage between creatine and ATP production. And subsequently, the science also discovered that not only that, creatine actually also helping us to increase our glycogen store. That means we can store more carbohydrate in the body. And also like to increase the ventilatory threshold. That means the cardiovascular system, so that the body can basically use more oxygen when we do exercise. So it's not only for the short duration, high intensity, but also can apply to a longer duration, like in the endurance activity as well. So that this creatine becomes, catch the attention of most of the athletes nowadays. And it's actually safe, and also, in terms of the doping, is like a legal supplements for the athletes to consume, so that they can actually help them to fine-tune their final performance to perform their best. So one example. And then other than the supplements, like in the capsule or in the pills, the athlete also relies on some of the commercial sports food, okay? The commercial sports food, because their requirement is so high, just like the example of Michael Phelps. If he need to eat 5 times of the calories than us or than me. Okay, then do you think he can eat that much of amount of like 5 bowl of rice and 5 pieces of chicken in one meal? That is not, not quite possible. So that we have these commercial sports food that condense all the nutrients into a small volume. Okay, so it's very, very high in terms of the energy density. So one example is the sport gel. Maybe you got, the experience of having the sport gel if you do like running or marathon runner. Okay, so this sports food contains different nutrients. This illustrating the gram of carbohydrate as an example, like just one tube, okay, of the gel. Okay, it's only 40. It's only 60 ml. Okay, so it is actually in terms of the volume, it's very small, but it contains 40 grams of carbohydrate, which is like closely equivalent to a bowl of rice already. So if you ask the athlete to eat, that much of carbohydrate, sometimes they may not be able to get sufficient amounts from food because the volume would be too high for them to do the digestion or even for them to take in. Okay, because of the volume. So we have this type of sport food in the market. Some of them even are also paired with other supplements like the creatine that I've told you, or the amino acids or vitamin D into the sports commercial sports food product, so that they can actually take in with a smaller volume but with a lot of nutrients inside the product. Okay, so that is one strategy. If we look at this chart, it clearly illustrating the relationship between the performance and the carbohydrate intake of the triathlete, the Ironman triathlete in 2009. So it's actually real data collected from those athletes. And then you can see the finish time in the x-axis. So the shorter the finish time, you can see actually those athletes consume higher amounts of carbohydrate intake. So that we can see there is a correlation between higher carbohydrate intake and faster time. Because of what? Because these carbohydrate would be able to supply the ATP during the activities for the athlete during their game, so that they can perform better. Okay, so how do they do that when they are, competing in the Ironman triathlon race? How do they take in so much of the carbohydrate? It mainly depends on the commercial product that I've shown you in the previous slide. So that is very useful tools. Okay, so smart refueling during exercise by the commercial sports food would be also another big issues in the sports nutrition. How do we support the athlete during their competition? Not only triathlon, but also like the fencing game, because it takes so long. Also the tennis game. In between or during the competition, they also need to refuel the body with the sufficient ATP. So that is a strategy to help to boost the performance of the athlete. Okay, so that after talking so much, now you should be able to understand a bit more about sports nutrition. And we know that there is actually no magical diet. Okay, there's no magical diet. Even for the world-class marathon runner, I'm sure most of you would know this guy. He is the fastest man in the world in terms of running the marathon. Okay, even for this top athlete, if he doesn't get sufficient energy from the food, even he did so hard for his training, it's no feel for him to carry on. Okay, so in order to challenge again, okay, this in Tokyo 2020, so challenge again in the Paris 2024, he also need to eat in the proper nutrition, so that it would support his demand. Okay, remember there's no more or no less, because if more than that, he will gain fat mass, so that it would detrimental to his running career. No less, because less than his requirement, he actually cannot perform his best. So that is to make sure it's just right to pair with the training. Of course, training is important to get the medals, but also proper nutrition to fine-tune their final performance so that they can be a second faster, they can be a bit stronger, and that will be the critical point for them to get the medal. So finally, to wrap up, proper nutrition in sports nutrition is to ensure several things to happen. Okay, firstly, their body composition, because that is one critical key point for their success. Second is their training adaptation, because their training is so long, their training is so hard, so tough. So nutrition is helping them to adapt the training. And then they will have better recovery from each session so that they can do another training session in the next day or so. Finally, to boost up their sports performance. Okay, that is the key. No magic, actually no secret, but it's science. Of course, nutrition is also helping their overall health because their demand is so high. Without sufficient support, they may be, getting the overtraining symptoms, getting sickness easily. Okay, that's pretty much I want to share with you today. Thank you. I will leave the Q&A sessions after Kemi's introduction to our program.
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Heidi, for your insightful and valuable sharing. As we can see that, so after the updated data, we can see proper nutrition does help with the sports performance, and it is really important to eat right so that when we do sports, like the side effects, like as Heidi said, the fatigue, the tiredness, and sometimes we may have gut discomfort that doesn't come to us. So to understand that, Hong Kong U Space has developed several sport nutrition programs, and we are happy that we have collaborated with Austin University to offer Master of Science and Exercise Sport and Exercise Nutrition program. This is a 2-year part-time program. So if you are a graduate from nutrition or dietetics or physiology or biochemistry or sports science related subjects, and you are really interested in sport nutrition, this particular field, this program is suitable for you. So this program just gained the accreditation from Sport and Exercise Nutrition Register. So it's the SENR accredited program. So this accreditation, what does it mean? Is that the graduates of this master program are eligible to register as graduate registrant as SENR. So SENR is currently administered by the British Dietetic Association. And this program aims to provide appropriate academic training in sport and exercise nutrition field to allow the graduates and followed by further mentor work experience in sport and exercise nutrition to pursue a full registration as sports and exercise nutritionist in the UK. And this program adopt blended learning mode, so which includes both online learning materials which are provided by Austin University, and we also supplemented it with face-to-face tutorials so that we can include more local elements. And there are some workshops at our dietetic clinic hoping to enrich student learning experience. And in the last year, we also, in the previous years, we also arranged site visit to some relevant center like sports center, like HKSI, Hong Kong Sports Institute, to enrich student experience, to broaden their field in this area. So our program is the first international postgraduate program outside England and Ireland to gain this SENR accreditation. So we are very pleased about that. If you would like to know more, you can scan the QR code, or you can go to our website for more information. Yeah, so thank you. And then we also offer different programs at different levels. So if you're interested in this area, we do provide advanced certificate in sport and exercise nutrition. This program also covers different topics, but it is a 6-month program. On the other hand, in this 6-month program, we will talk about like topics what to eat before, after training, but in more details. And we have also experienced lecturer who will share their expertise, knowledge in this field to us. And this is also a CEF reimbursable program, and it is coming up in July. And also, we also offer shorter courses, the foundation certificate, and also the nutrition in exercise and sports program, which will be delivered. These shorter programs will be delivered in Cantonese, and this will be opening later this year as well. So thank you. And last but not least, we do offer this program, but if you really want to know more our updates, you can also go to our Facebook or Instagram for more information. And I think I think some of the audience, after hearing our talks and also from Heidi and also the about the programs, I believe that some of the audience may have questions about our like what to eat for sports or specific exercise. So maybe I will see if there are any questions on the floor, and we may allow 1 to 2, maybe 2 to 3 questions. To see the time. Yep. So here is the Q&A session. And I just looked that there is one private message is the audience would like to know about yes, she does exercise like 1 to 2 hours running almost every morning. She would like to know what should she eats before running, and anything she needs to drink during running.
Okay, that's a smart question because talking about what to drink, the beverage is very important, especially in Hong Kong now. So hot, so humid. We actually sweat a lot during the running. So if this audience actually run every day in the morning, yeah, for 1 to 2 hours, so she must have a lot of sweat coming out for evaporation, for cooling down of the body. That is a normal physiological response. But then when we think about what would we lose when we have the sweat coming out. So basically, it's the electrolytes. The main thing is the electrolytes. Okay, that's why we have those electrolyte drinks. But be careful about the sugar level. Some of them might have much higher than than the requirement. So that careful examination of the food label is also needed. Electrolytes may be a common answer, but then I would also think about iron. Okay, that may be being underestimated or overlooked by most of the people, because actually iron would be excreted out via our sweat as well in quite a substantial amount. Okay, especially for lady, because we have menstrual cycle. That our iron level may be a bit unstable during that period of time. So that taking in the food with sufficient iron would also be useful to compensate the loss in the sweat in terms of the dietary iron. Okay, so that would be something to think about, that to plan ahead. In terms of what to eat before. That depends on the gut training. Okay, that is the tummy sick, because as can be mentioned, some of the everyday may experience the gut problem. So it really depends. Some people say I should do exercise with an empty stomach, which is actually not recommended, but also not a large meal, because that may also upset your gut. So it depends on your gut situation, but I would say a bit of carbohydrate before running would be the best offer to the body, so that the body got sufficient energy to do the work and also prevent injury. If with an empty stomach, it's actually increasing the risk of injury during the running, and that's not worth it.
Yes, totally. So I think yes, before like I think it's very interesting question. And also Heidi has already mentioned about the electrolytes and the what should we eat during running, and also before running we need to maybe eat some carbs as well. But what about the iron? Any food that you would recommend for to maintain the iron, that to meet the iron requirement that this lady may need?
Oh, okay. So the electrolyte should be replenished during the running session, because we don't want to fluctuate the electrolyte level in the blood. However, the iron doesn't need to be compensated during the running. Okay, it can be taken in all day long, because it's not that dramatic in terms of the amount being lost as compared to the electrolyte. So actually having a balanced diet, iron can comes from mostly animal products, or like meat and poultry, or even some of the vegetables and beans also provide sufficient iron. Okay, but just to bear in mind, when we sweat, we actually would lose some iron, and particularly in the period of menstruation, that's double burden to the body. So that the runner may feel easily tired than normal, than usual, then she may recognize the symptoms and do something to revert it.
Yes, I believe yes. And I think it answer what the audience is asking as well, and it is a really thorough and also comprehensive answer. And also, I do have another like private message, and this man is on the other hand, he is a bodybuilder. He hopes to gain more muscles, and he do gym every day. He is asking if he needs to take the protein powder and like the creatine just mentioned as well.
Yeah, that's also a very good question, and also related to one of my slides talking about protein restriction. I think that is a good news for the bodybuilder, because it was actually quite annoying before for those bodybuilders, because they may need more than 150 grams of protein a day. And then if each meal we can only take in like 20 grams, then that means those bodybuilder needs to eat very frequently. That may not be too suitable to their working schedule. Also, to the cooking routine as well. Now we have the new science telling us that okay, actually there is no such restriction. If you need 150 grams per day, you can make it into 3 meals, just like 3 normal, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or you can have more protein in the dinner time. In terms of powder, okay, do they have to take in the powder? It's really depends, we individualize. So if anyone can consume the sufficient amount of protein from food itself, okay, then there's no such need to take the supplements. However, if the meal doesn't provide sufficient protein, okay, maybe the digestion problem, maybe the timing, because like I have a client, he actually got no time to eat in the lunchtime, because bodybuilders sometimes they also need to work in the gym, or also a lot of training times, so no time to sit down to have a proper big meal. Then supplements would be a good choice or good alternative for them to take in the sufficient amount of protein.
Oh yes. So yeah, it really depends on like as Heidi earlier on as well, it's really individualized and need to really see really needs to take the protein powder. But it's really good that we have the science that to show some of the like the creatine, the active components are really working for in this area. So I think that I didn't see any more questions for now. But if you have any like questions regarding our talk, or if regarding our programs, I believe that you can also go to our website and also send us inquiry email if you would like to learn more. Yes, so thank you all for joining, and I hope you have a good day and a good weekend ahead. Yeah, thank you, Heidi.
Okay, thank you.